I think it's a demonstrable evidence that through society's demographics that being white has societal privileges that being black does not. But
we can talk about how that manifests, because that's
I'm also interested in what you just said now, is that you would stand next to anyone who has this. So, Mr. Shapiro, my question to you is, for Ms. Dunston, the tying the noose around the campus and writing messages that target African-American young students, would you consider that hate speech, and then would you stand next to her and fight for her?
Welcome back to MAGA News Central. A heated congressional exchange turned into a major debate over race, free speech, and identity politics. Ben Shapiro faced tough questions about white privilege and whether he would defend a student accused of spreading hateful messages. But instead of backing down, Shapiro drew a line that completely changed the conversation. He argued that fighting real racism is different from judging people based on their identity. Let's get into it.
Now, it's interesting, Mr. Shapiro, you talked about white privilege. And just this week, I had a conversation with Rachel Lazar, who's done some work, a Jewish American woman who's done some work on this area, as well as having extensive conversations with Dr. Greg Parks of Wake Forest University, who's also talked quite a bit about critical race theory. And it's my understanding that white privilege is not telling individuals that they cannot speak, but it is a term for societal privilege that individuals have as a benefit of their white skin. And I don't think that, and I think universities would be remiss to then say that because you're white, you're not allowed to say anything that's critical of white people. I didn't know that white privilege actually went into that sphere. My understanding is it's just, and the issue is that white privilege makes people uncomfortable to talk about the societal privilege that they have.
Well, to me, what I say on campuses all the time is, if you want to cite instances of racism that we can all find and fight together, that's something that I'm more than willing to stand next to you and fight, because that's obviously stuff that we should fight together. But when you just say that there is a white privilege out there in the ether and that by dint of birth your skin color generates for you an advantage, what you're really saying to people is that your view is less valuable because you have not experienced what I've experienced. And that is an identity argument, that's a character argument, that's not a rational political argument that can actually be taken on in any way. It's more of a cudgel and a club than it is an attempt to open a discussion.
Well, I think it's a demonstrable evidence that through society's demographics that being white has societal privileges that being black does not. But
we can talk about how that manifests, because that's
I'm also interested in what you just said now, is that you would stand next to anyone who has this. So, Mr. Shapiro, my question to you is, for Ms. Dunston, the tying the noose around the campus and writing messages that target African-American young students, would you consider that hate speech, and then would you stand next to her and fight for her?
As I say, I would. This is the first I'm hearing about it, honestly. But
really,
yeah. But from hearing about it, maybe because it's local. I mean, I'm from LA. But in any case, I'm more than happy to stand alongside her and fight whatever group was responsible for this. Not only more than happy. I mean, you're talking about the alt-right. Again, I was the #1 target of anti-Semitic harassment from the alt-right last year. So I'm more than happy to do all that. And I think there's one more distinction that has to be made. When we talk about cases like Taylor's, they're horrific, and the administration is siding with Taylor. Okay, the administration is doing the right thing by Taylor, or trying to do the right thing by Taylor, as they should be. And I think that we need to make a distinction between cases where the administration is actively participating in the suppression of speech and cases in which the administration is trying to do the right thing in order to punish people for application of crime.
The gentlelady's time has expired.
Representative Stacey Plaskett opened the exchange by asking Ben Shapiro about the concept of white privilege. She argued that societal advantages exist based on race and suggested that acknowledging those differences was necessary to understand inequality in America. Shapiro responded by making an important distinction. He explained that he has always been willing to stand against actual racism, discrimination, and harassment wherever it happens. But he challenged the broader idea that a person's skin color automatically determines their value, experiences, or opinions. According to Shapiro, when people are told their views matter less because of their race, the discussion moves away from ideas and into identity politics. He argued that debates should focus on individual actions and beliefs rather than assigning advantages or disadvantages based solely on someone's background. The discussion then moved to a specific case involving messages targeting African American students on a college campus. Plaskett asked whether Shapiro would consider those messages hate speech and whether he would stand with the students affected. Shapiro's answer was immediate. He said he would absolutely stand against racism and harassment, regardless of who the victim was or who committed it. He also pointed out that he himself had faced serious harassment from extremist groups, including anti-Semitic attacks from the far right. For Shapiro, the principle was simple. Real hatred should be confronted no matter where it comes from. But he also argued that there is a difference between punishing actual wrongdoing and suppressing speech simply because people disagree with an idea. The exchange highlighted a much larger debate happening across America. Supporters of Shapiro's arguments say that discussions about race should focus on equal treatment and individual responsibility. They argue that broad labels based on race can create more division by encouraging people to view each other through identity, rather than character. Shapiro warned that when society begins judging people primarily by categories they are born into, it moves away from the principle of individual equality. He argued that a person's ideas should be evaluated based on their logic and evidence, not their race or identity. At the same time, critics of his position argue that historical and social factors can influence people's experiences differently. The debate continues, but Shapiro's message was clear. Confronting racism requires looking at actions, not making assumptions about individuals. What made this moment stand out was that Shapiro refused to accept what he viewed as a false choice. He rejected the idea that someone must either accept every argument about privilege or be accused of ignoring discrimination. Instead, he argued for a different approach, one where racism is confronted directly, while open debate and free speech remain protected. This is the larger battle playing out on college campuses and in political discussions across the country. Should society judge people by their identity or by their individual actions and character? That question continues to divide Americans. And moments like this show why debates about race, speech, and equality remain some of the most important conversations happening today. If you believe open debate matters and people should be judged by their character and ideas, click the subscribe button and share this video so more people can join the conversation. The exchange between Ben Shapiro and Representative Stacey Plaskett was about much more than one hearing. It represented a deeper disagreement over how America should approach race, fairness, and freedom of expression. Shapiro argued that fighting racism means protecting individuals from discrimination while refusing to judge people based only on their identity. Whether you agree or disagree, one thing is clear: these debates shape the future of free speech and public conversation in America. What do you think? Should discussions about race focus more on identity or individual actions? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe to MAGA News Central for more political breakdowns and major moments from across America.